Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia, the audio Belle, and I'm here today with my audio dog Levy. He's a one-eyed rescue dog that I got a few years ago, and while he has one eye, he still has two ears, and he loves music. He loves my audiophile system. So I went to Axpona this year. Coco, stop that. Okay, come here. Here's Coco. He's still upset that I didn't take him to Axpona. But I went to Axpona and all my dogs wanted to go. I told them, you can't go. I don't think they let dogs at Axpona. Coco decided that he wants to go on strike and try to get dogs to be able to attend Axpona. Anyways, no Tati. So at Axpona, I got to do several interviews with people, and some of the interviews that I did were man-on-the-street interviews. Okay, Coco. They were man-on-the-street interviews in which I met random people at Axpona in the hallways, in the listening rooms, and I interviewed them, asking them three main questions. First question, where are the young people? So at Axpona, there were not very many young people. Most of the people there were my parents' age or my grandparents' age. Second question, where are the women? And why are there not very many women audiophiles? And third question, if this were your show, what would you do to bring more young people and women to Axpona? Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia, the audio Belle, and I'm here with Kent English from Past Labs. Kent, I just have a couple of questions for you. And my first question, as we were just talking about earlier, was there's not enough young people into audio. I'm not seeing that many audiophiles that are my age. Most of the audiophiles I'm seeing could be my dad's age or my grandparents' age. So why do you think that is?
Well, just for your audience's benefit, Cynthia and I have been talking about this for about the past half hour, and I think there are a number of issues that are going on, and I'm going to start putting the blame with audiophiles of my age. When I got into this in the late 60s, early 70s, the spirit of mentoring was in full force. So audiophiles had, for lack of a better word, they had the drug dealer model. Everybody wanted cohorts. Everybody wanted somebody they could share their music with. So in my personal experience, I had an older relative who was an audiophile with a huge music collection, a fantastic audio system, and an insatiable curiosity about music in general. So we had this symbiotic relationship that went on, that he was showing me music and hardware, but predominantly music, that I was unfamiliar with, and the rest of that story was he wanted me to show him the music that really moved my soul. And as I was telling Cynthia, I was too young to drive, but Cousin Wayne took me to see The Who. Now, he didn't have a clue who The Who were. He did by the end of the show. And there was this interplay, back and forth, and that wasn't unusual. That was just the way it was. And I don't know at what point audio became more of a solitary experience, but it certainly wasn't in the 60s and 70s. It was a communal event. And so today we've got my generation who's not mentoring, and we've got Cynthia's generation, younger generation, who are going around listening to music on their phones, earbuds. Yeah. So it's become, at some point we have perpetrated the solitary event. And that's not the whole problem, but that's certainly probably at the basis of it.
Do you think that happened because of convenience with personal devices and whatnot?
I don't know. I mean, it's certainly convenience of audio was was a big part of it, and this goes back to 60s or 70s, that analog LPs were the primary medium, and it wasn't inexpensive. So as a burgeoning audiophile, or just a person who liked music, we did audio parties were kind of like the thing. You know, you'd haul your LPs over to, you know, your friend's house, and 5 or 6 people would show up, and between the 5 or 6 people, you had, you know, 5 or 6 hours of listening, and it was very communal.
It's a different culture.
So it is. It's a hugely different culture, but I don't think the basic tenets have changed. Everybody loves music.
So you think that
I've only met, I think, one person in my life that didn't like music, and I think they were seriously flawed.
something's wrong with them.
Yeah, something's wrong with them.
Something's not right there. So you think that through mentorship, we can get young people into it, but not enough people are mentoring young people.
Well,
and why is that?
I think part of the problem, too, is that I think we see more and more segregation as to what people listen to. I mean, you can query a lot of audiophiles around here, and they're listening to stuff that I probably wouldn't listen to.
Yeah, a different taste in music for sure.
And there's different tastes in music, and there seems to be a lack of acceptance of other musical forms. And frankly, there's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love my Coltrane, I love my, you know, 1950s, 60s, 70s recordings, but there is so much good stuff out there that I don't know how you couldn't not sample all of it.
Right. But it seems to be something that's happened with almost every generation in the 50s and 60s, and then rock and roll started, and then the people from the previous generation didn't want to hear that, but the kids did, and it was considered rebellious.
Well, I know. You know, I mean, I certainly went through that. But then at some point, I don't know if maturation is the correct phrase, but I started going back with an appreciation for some of the earlier stuff. And, you know, it's like, if you're going to make music, you really need to know the rules. I mean, breaking the rules is cool, but you got to know the rules first.
So when did you start listening to the older music?
Probably not until like the late 20s, you know, and
That's considered young for audiophile. I mean,
well, it is
30s are considered young for audiophile.
Well, I know, yeah, you know, I was listening predominantly to what we would now call classic rock, although it wasn't classic at the time, it was certainly contemporary. But then I got more interested in the structure of music. How is music made? What's a diatonic scale, and that sort of thing. So I started reading, and I took music classes because I could. And I don't know, it was a natural progression. And now I have to admit that I actually have an appreciation of stuff that maybe my parents would have listened to. And so big band, bop, it's probably not in high rotation on my list, but it's certainly on my list.
Yeah.
And whatever we call post-punk, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, that's on my list too.
So your music tastes changed over time.
No, they didn't. They didn't change. The stuff I liked in my teens, I still like. I don't think my taste
It's just
changed,
expanded.
But they broadened. They
Okay.
broadened fairly dramatically.
So the taste in music expanded over
Yeah.
maturity.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking about your wife earlier and how she, when she was single, was a gearhead and loved gear.
Oh, my wife has been a audio junkie since she was a kid, and I was telling Cynthia that I had been a radio station groupie in my teens, and so had she. So as 14, 15 years old, she's sweeping around radio stations, stacking playlists, running away from home, going to concerts, and nothing's really changed. Mm-hmm.
So she was a gearhead before you met, which is something that's pretty rare because there's not a lot of female audiophiles out there. Do you know why that is, or do you have any opinions on that?
Well, I have opinions. I don't know if they're valid.
Well, it counts. So whatever they are, I'm happy to hear them.
I think part of it is accessibility. Mm-hmm. My wife has played various musical instruments all her adult life and most of her juvenile life as well. So she spent a lot of time in music stores. And if you go into music stores, well, first you're exposed to the instruments. And if the instruments are electrified, you're immediately exposed to the electronics, to the hardware side of it. If they're acoustic and you go into recording, you're now exposed to the hardware side of it as well. And for her, I think that's where that started. So, and then that led to, collecting of wooden boxes that made noise. Clarinets, mandolins, guitars, banjos, I don't know, stuff.
So her musicianship helped shape her into an audiophile.
Well, absolutely. And then there was, a fascination with playing styles of different musicians. And once you start looking at the technique of how they're playing, every answer leads to 12 more questions. So it's a cascade event that one thing leads to another. And it's basically education, I suppose.
Yeah, I would say education then, and like what you touched on earlier, the mentorship.
Yeah, well, how else are you going to learn? I mean, yes, you can do program classes. The Berklee School of Music is online. It's easy. But a tremendous amount comes from just people showing you something. And I tell the older audiophiles in particular, go down to wherever they sell music, be it Guitar Center or, I don't know, local record store. Find the coolest looking kid in the place, hand him a sweaty wad of cash and say, go procure music for me. And if you like what you hear, you just found your next audio buddy. And if you didn't, go down the line, check out the next kid. Show me what moves your soul. And that's how it works.
It's about what they want to listen to.
Yeah, it's about
what they're passionate about.
Yeah, it's what's exciting to them. And then maybe in return you can say, okay, well, but the roots of that are here. Maybe you need to look here to see how they got there.
Okay. Well, my last question is, if it were your show, we're at Axpona right now, if this were your show, what would you do to change it so that younger people would be coming?
Well, first you have to give people a reason to come to the show. So, I think one of the things you do is let them hear their music for the first time. And that's what we have the ability to do here, is play things in high def, full frequency response, full dynamic impact. And I don't know how many people we've had in our home that they've only heard something with earbuds. And I mean, I've even had this experience with people in the recording industry, well, actually in the supply side of the recording industry, so the people who were supplying CDs and that sort of thing to the consumer.
Oh, yeah.
And they've only heard it on, the console mix. And they come and you say, and they come with their product. So I ask them, so would you like to hear your product? And they sit there and they go, oh my God, I was in the recording studio doing the mastering and I've never heard that. Literally, I've never heard that.
So they start picking out things that they haven't heard in the recording.
Picking it up. So if you have people that have only listen through their phone, and only listen through, you know, $2 earbuds. They've never heard their music. They've never heard it.
They've never heard it before, like the artist wants you to hear it.
No, they've never heard what the artist intended. They don't know the artist's intent. It's like looking at a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional event. They've seen a cloudy two-dimensional image.
And a lot of loss in the music.
Loss. So we have the ability to show them a slice in time, as opposed to a poor recreation of an event. We can literally show them a slice of time.
Well, I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Thank you, Kent, for being on here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is Cynthia, the Audio Belle, and I'm signing out.